How much of this are you doing in-house versus what are you subcontracting out? Everybody's got a specialty, for any agency that you're working with, what is theirs? Welcome back to Local SEO Tactics, where we bring you tips and tricks to get found online. I'm your host, Jesse Dolan, here again with Bob Brennan, Sue Ginsberg.
Hi.
Ready to tackle the tough questions when it comes to web and SEO. Sue, what do we got on tap today?
Okay, today's question comes in from another web designer. Really good question. What to look for in a web design or an SEO proposal? Like, what should people be looking for? Because even web design means different things to different people, and especially SEO proposals. A lot of people have different ways of doing it. What should you look for so that if you are choosing between one, two, three, a couple of firms, you are comparing apples to apples? So I thought that was a great question. So, quote of the day: do not allow yourself to be misled by the surface of things. This is from Rainer Maria Rilke, a Czech poet of the early 1900s who developed a new style of lyrical poetry influenced by the visual arts. I really liked this question. This quote: do not allow yourself to be misled by the surface of things, because it happens to everybody, right? So, marketing story around this. Last October, at an annual Oktoberfest celebration that I've been going to for many years, thanks to Minneapolis CPA firm SDK, I was talking to someone who mentioned his firm was interested in updating their website. Hadn't been updated in years, and they very wisely wanted to switch to an easier CMS platform, update their mission and values, employee photos, content, and of course, update the look of their website. A few years in the lifetime of a website is an eternity. So I was happy to hear that they were aware of that and looking to update it. We had several, I'll call them discovery conversations, where we both learned what we needed to from each of our perspectives. They were very thorough in their questions. And from that, we gave them a proposal for the work requested. The proposal instigated more questions on their part. Answers to those questions brought on more questions from them, and this continued back and forth for several rounds of Q&A till they had the information necessary to present to their marketing committee, whoever it was, for a decision to work with us. We welcomed their questions and our follow-up discussions, totally understanding that this was foreign territory to them, just like their business is foreign territory to us. And I give them a lot of respect for that. So, in talking to Jesse and our brand and website design build specialist, the one and only Taylor, it occurred to me how much more confident they would be in their decision, having covered all the questions that they had, and knowing that they had asked the questions to get them the information they needed, the right information for them to make this sound decision. One thing led to another, and the creation of this list was formed. With that, Jesse, tell us what questions should be asked, maybe what 5 things you should make sure you know and find out when interviewing website design build and or SEO firms to hire, to make sure that business owners do scratch beneath the surface. They know that they're getting what they want to from the firm, and are going in with their eyes wide open, knowing that the firm that they're collaborating with is going to deliver to them what they want and not some other version of it that just wasn't discussed in detail.
Yeah, I've got 5 things. You shared this episode topic ahead of time, Sue, so I kind of have 5 things. There's not only 5 things, and these are not going to be in any order. That being said, Bob, from the business owner's perspective, feel free to jump in and chime in and expand on any of these. And I'm sure we're going to have some bonus things that we've kind of missed that aren't part of this 5, right? This is not just a list of only 5. I think something also to parse out with this, Sue, is that there are plenty of people here listening to the show, we know, in the audience that are also building their own agencies. So the things we're going to talk about here are really geared towards if you're a business owner, you're a marketing manager looking for SEO or looking for a website, some of the things you want to see in your proposal, your quote. Also, if you're the agency right now listening to this, you can reverse engineer this. These are the kinds of things you want to be sharing, right? If you're going to be looked at with some confidence, no matter if it's your first proposal or not. So one of the things is basically what you were talking about, Sue, that back and forth, that question. I wouldn't say this is something that's in a proposal, like typed out, but that it should be part of the process of getting a quote and a proposal. Some kind of discussion, exploration, discovery type stuff. The larger the project, the more that should be, whether it be SEO or like a website design. There's no off the shelf, here's the price, sign up, take it or leave it type deal. Even if you're launching a business from scratch, what are your products? What are your services? What's your history? How many locations? Every business is unique and there's just no boilerplate, solution for you. If that's the kind of stuff you're getting and you're not able to have a conversation or kind of do that discovery, then that would be something for sure. That would be a red flag for me or a green flag. If the people that we're engaging with are very collaborative, right? Because it is custom for everybody, right? What your exact needs are. So that's got to be for sure in on it. Your website is not like just a one-page PDF flyer. Like this is your digital representation of your business. If you're talking SEO, it's what you want to be found for, right? Which, Bob, as we know, that guides your business and your marketing in general. And then your website is the actual, again, storefront, the first impression that people get. So this should be something that requires multiple conversations or, back and forth to really define some things to be able to get an accurate quote and proposal. Now, within that, one big thing to talk about, especially if this is going to be a new website, this would be number 2 for me here, is what platform is it built on, right? Is this going to be WordPress, which is what we always prefer and try to push people towards for most of the businesses that we work with? It's a perfect fit. If this is e-commerce, is there something else you need to do? Are we talking Shopify here? Are we talking Square, Judah? There's different content management platforms. Or is this some custom coded, proprietary type website? To know what you're getting and what they're building for you, if you're engaging with people, is an extremely important thing to ask. Not only for you being aware of what you're getting, but more for the down the road. We prefer WordPress because it's very non-proprietary, right? Like we always joke, you can throw a rock down the road and probably hit somebody that knows something about WordPress. That's the position you want to be in as a business owner. This is a big one. Bob, I know back, we've been doing business for 25, 27 years. We've engaged with some people before we did our own websites. And this is kind of true for all things marketing related. Are you working with any of my competitors? Yeah. It's something I would definitely want to be knowing. And I don't mean that right in a good way, like you're experienced, but more of, I don't want to compete against your other client.
That doesn't make sense.
No, right in my own space. Now it's good, if somebody has some industry experience, like I'm familiar with your niche and those websites. Okay, cool. Like Sue, we've talked about that internally and with our clients and prospects. I don't think you need to have experience in a certain vertical to be successful with a website. But if somebody has experience, great, right? There to know your language. That's not going to be a negative thing. But my point is that's different than working with a competitor. You're like a direct competitor in my niche, in my market. I would not want a partner in my marketing that is serving my competitors with marketing as well, if you can avoid it. So then number 3 here, I'm going to say is if you can be so bold as to ask them, especially if this is a comprehensive, right? If this is a website build plus SEO plus blogging and whatever, how much of this are you doing in-house versus what are you subcontracting out? Everybody's got a specialty, for any agency that you're working with, what is theirs? What are they doing in-house? What are they doing out-house? Is there a team? I guess this kind of expands into kind of multiple points here, but and then with that team, what are they doing? There's a lot of places out there, if you just look for digital marketing, maybe it's a web design company that can also do your SEO. Or maybe it's an SEO company that can also do your web design. Maybe it's a social media company that can also do paid ads on Google, right? Like just whatever it is within marketing here. It's pretty rare that you have a one-stop shop that is a bunch of experts in all these different disciplines. So ask those questions. Who do you have on staff in these various disciplines? Designers, brand building, copywriting. If you're doing video production, who's doing that? Versus what are you outsourcing? It's so easy to outsource things through different countries, through, portals like Fiverr, things like that. Being aware of that. Sometimes there's some margin that can be built in, right? Mm-hmm. If you're outsourcing some of these things as an agency, that can be something maybe that helps you kind of compare quotes. I'm coming at it more from the angle of the level of services that you're getting provided, right? If you're doing a website with SEO, content, all these different things that are on there, for us, we strongly believe that there is a lot of efficiency to be gained by good collaboration, right, within your website. If somebody that's generating a piece of content to be used in one area isn't aware of somebody else doing something in another area, how can the message be the same? We've talked in a previous episode, Sue, about like making sure your messaging and things are coordinated between your various portals, your GMB, your people answering the phone, your website. Same thing here. If we come up with a really cool call to action on a page, and it says this a certain way, right, for the conversion and for the intent of the client, but somebody changes it, because you have the SEO contract that up to somebody in India and they just modified the page. I guess as right as my point there is the streamlined communications, collaborations within that. So definitely asking, what do they do? What are their strong points? And then what are they outsourcing and farming out for your build? Hey everyone, just a quick message about our free SEO audit tool on localseotactics.com, and we'll get right back to the show. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, go on out to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button up in the top right corner, click that. And it's going to take just a couple seconds. You enter in the page that you want to optimize, what you're looking for the audit to score against. Enter in that page, enter in the keyword you're looking to get optimized for, and enter in your email address, click the button, and it's going to take a few seconds, and then it's going to send you off a PDF report via email. It's a great report. It's going to kind of give you an overall score of some vital SEO areas for that page and for your website at large, even though it's auditing this page. That's going to tell you some of the good things that are happening, some of the bad things that are happening too, and give you basically a checklist of some things that you need to shore up and what you can do to improve your SEO for that page, for that keyword that you're auditing. Now you can use this as many times as you want. You can do multiple keywords, multiple pages, multiple keywords on the same page. You can even use this to check against your competitors, right? If you want to do a little reverse engineering, see how they're scoring for a certain keyword, what they may be doing good that you're not, and some things to improve there. So lots of different ways to use it, completely free. Again, go on to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button in the top right corner of the website. I got 1.5 more things here before we kind of get to more general discussion here, guys. But this item here I have pointed out is what is the commitment and the expectation for communications between you and the provider if you choose them. If it's a web build, what are the various stages where you're communicating with them to review things, to approve things, or to create stuff? If we're talking SEO, is it some kind of regular interval for reviewing things? Are there reports that are sent? What is the level of communication on what is working, what isn't working, right? What are the action items for the next quarter, for the next month, for the next year? It shouldn't be something that is completely in its own silo, right? That you're not talking about or engaged with. Again, back to our earlier points of things are dynamic and changing on your website and digital marketing. You should be having communications not only on the plans that you already have in place, but those plans will be changing going forward. So there should be some level of commitment and expectations for the communications, the meetings, and those kinds of intervals. You don't want to have them needlessly, but they will be needed, right, at various points.
Jesse, I love that you say that, because believe it or not, I've talked to people who are working with the firm that they've been working with for a long time, and if they have a question, they need to submit a ticket through the firm's online process, and it could be 4 days or 7 days later before they get the answer. It's like, are you kidding me?
Sure. Which I can get from a technical nerd standpoint, like, hey, that's great. They're all logged. We keep track of it, who's assigned to it. But then I think as a business, you can lose sight of how that feels for the customer and the client, right? On the other end.
Yeah,
So
right.
you can't be that inhuman, right, for some of these things.
Yeah.
So no, I think being accessible, having good communications, right? And maybe you're a business where you're like, that doesn't matter to me. Okay, fine. But I guess as a topic, right? What do you want to look for? What do you want to ask? What topics here is, the method of communications and meeting intervals, reviews, things like that. What's the expectation here? I think then the final part to kind of talk about is what is the recipe a little bit. Nobody's going to give you their exact, recipe for Coke. But in SEO, there's different ways to approach SEO. And I think understanding that if you're looking at more than one provider, there's never going to be an apples to apples comparison on what one provider is going to do versus another. You could go online, do a quick search right now. You can probably get somebody to do SEO for $50 a month, right? There's people that are going to be 10 times that amount, or higher. So what are they providing to you? Because it's not SEO, right? That's a very broad term, What's the method? What's the tactics? Is there some kind of strategy? The more smoke and mirrors you get in those answers, the more you should run away, right? There should be not every bit of the recipe is going to be shared with you, but, what are the various stages? What are the expectations? What are the focus areas? I know we've talked to Sue in some conversations, but I think even, in these recorded conversations for the shows, that SEO is a granular process, right? It's optimizing. You don't paint with a broad brush for SEO. You get in and you really turn the levers and the knobs on the small granular scale. And that requires a lot of detail, a lot of precision, i.e., again, that's why I always compare it to a recipe. There's a method to the madness. Doesn't matter what an agency's overall approach is, that you should get some level of detail or guidance on. Is it just straight up backlinks that one company is using with another company is just about the content they're creating, right? It's going to be kind of a mix of everything, but fleshing that out to actually be able to compare what you're getting from one quote to another, because it's not just about the dollars. If you're getting two different price points, you're getting two different products, right? That you're looking at there. So parsing that out, I think, would be pretty important too. I think that's it for my notes. I kind of got some of them a little bit muddy, but roughly 5-ish things there that are pretty darn important if you're looking at web or SEO quotations, or you're looking to provide those to your clients. So,
another side piece of that too, Jesse, is know what their estimate includes. We've had some really smart clients talk to us and say, does that include web hosting? Do I need to change my domain name? Does that include what does and doesn't that include? And those are the type of things that you do not want to budget for whatever the price you were given and then find out, oh, it's a little bit more here, it's a little bit more there. And that stuff can add up and be annoying.
Good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, only thing I can say, and maybe you kind of covered this and whatnot, is it's all about results. So as a business owner, I look at it as risk and reward, right? So if somebody said to me, Bob, for $10,000, I can get you on the first page for your top 4 keywords, I'd laugh, right? Because the first page doesn't cut it. It doesn't, for that kind of money, it's got to be, top, the top 3 or top 1 actually for unless you're plastic surgery or something that there's huge ROI. So for me, it's a matter of measuring the metrics before they start. So if you have an existing website, can you measure the calls and clicks and everything else? And if all it is a facelift on that website, and they're not necessarily responsible for that, in some ways they are. If they're coming to you and they're saying, okay, we're going to revamp this, we're going to have a whole different UI and everything else in it, and it's going to double your calls, and that's what we guarantee. Okay, let's work with that baseline and say, okay, there's all the things that you guys measured or talk about, which is good. But as a business owner, I can't stress enough. You've got to have some baseline metrics and saying, okay, you're going to, if it's SEO, you're going to get us to the top, 1 and 2 position for these 5 keywords. And bear in mind, you have what, Jesse? The average site probably has 30 to 60 keywords that they're focusing on, right?
Oh, sure.
And there's probably
Through all the
5
pages.
that are their money makers, right? If you're an attorney, it's immigration law, will and trust, or whatever the deal is. These are your specialties. These are the things that you make the money in, that you need to show up for that keyword in St. Louis or St. Louis County or whatever the case is. And you need to hold them to that. And you need to give them a timeline, in my mind, of whatever that timeline is, 90 days or whatever. And if they get you there and your phone is ringing, well, then they've earned their money. And more importantly, you need to pay them, continue to pay them to hold you in that position. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then add on, 5 more keywords that are specific to Ukrainian immigration law or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? But it's really important, in my mind, as a business owner, that you define what success is, right? And as an agency, you define what success is because you want to continue to get paid. And you're saying, hey, we both agree that this is success. We're hitting this. Do you want to continue with this? And what else do you have for projects for us? And I know that's somewhat simplistic, but at the same time, as an agency, I think if we can guarantee certain results, we potentially can charge more or at least retain our customers, guaranteeing certain results. But we have to define what those results are and define what those metrics are. And once they're defined, game on, right? This is, when we were kids and you played neighborhood, whatever, kickball, football, whatever the deal is, the frustrating part was if you go over the Johnson's yard, they define their out of bounds as the shrub roses, right? Where you're like, come on, and that's when, when we play the game and we don't know what the rules are, that's when everybody gets frustrated.
That's good. It's like the question behind the question here, right? Like we're talking about what should you look for in these proposals and the bids and everything else, but you're bringing up a great point. Like, well, why are you getting this quote in the first place, right? What's the expectation of the investment here?
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
The whole thing, when I
input.
hear people, talk about image and stuff like that, I'm like, wow, you probably have money to burn, which is great, but I look for results. And if it is improving your image and you get the results, well then yes, improve your image. But let's understand this is our baseline. How do we measure that? And then build on that. But otherwise, if the agency can't really guarantee anything, or they tell you vagaries in terms of first page or whatever the case is, you need to be educated enough that first page does not cut it, in my mind. You've got to say, you got to be more specific and say the top 3 for these keywords, period. And if they can't do that and they just say first page, you got to find a different agency, in my opinion. So.
Bob, I am so glad that you brought that up, because I think, to me, the underlying issue with that scenario is somebody who's a business owner and doesn't know SEO. They know their business, not SEO. They may hear that and think, oh, that's great, being on the first page. Like, don't fake out your prospect and make them think that being on the first page is a great thing. Yeah, if you're on the 4th page, it's a stepping stone, but really you want to get into the top 3 or 4.
Right.
And don't make me think that you're going to be great to work with because you can get me on the first page.
Right. My kid can do that. It really comes down to, again, risk and reward. If you're going to take out a radio ad, and they're saying, oh, your biggest problem is going to be finding enough people to write orders. Okay, well then guarantee that. And they say, well, there's the creative part for the ad. Do you want to be the spokesperson? Yeah. Do you want to do all that stuff? And it's like, here's the bottom line. You just told me that my biggest problem is going to be writing orders. Okay, that's my problem. You're going to make my world difficult. In order for you to do that, you decide to get in a celebrity per spokesperson. You decide what, how this should say. This shouldn't be your first rodeo. If you just told me that, you're going to kill it, well, then live up to your word and make it happen. By the way, we're going to construct this in such a way that if it doesn't happen, I ain't paying type of deal. And that, you need to do it for 3, 4, 5 months before you get enough. Okay, well then 3, 4, 5 months from now, if it works, I will pay you X. I will pay you all your money. But until then, if you're really an expert at this, there should be no risk for me on this end. You know what I mean? Would you go to a doctor that says, well, it might work? I mean, I realize doctors sometimes have to do that, but if you want to go to a doctor that says, hey, yeah, we're going to yank your appendix. You're going to be out of here in 24 hours and, 2 weeks from now, you're going to be just fine. But you don't want to go to the doctor. It's like maybes and ifs and everything else. You just move along.
Right.
And that, in my opinion,
there's some kind of definition and clarity on it, right? Like you're saying, whether something can be explicitly guaranteed, or like even in your scenario where you're talking, if it's just for aesthetics or branding or image, okay, that can sound a little abstract, but like, what is the point of that though, right? If you need to update your brand, and update your image, like what's your expectation on what that's going to be for some kind of ROI or impact? And then again, how can you measure that? If it is just phone calls, or if it's traffic to my website, or if it's the ranking, this is all, you're spending this kind of money, you're investing money into these things. Why? And then how do you measure, whatever you're defining for success for the investment? How do you measure to see if you're getting there? Right. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's a little more tricky. But man, great points, because it's not just about that new coat of paint, right, or the new looking website. Like, why? Why are you even doing this? And is it going to be a good investment? So
right.
Well, then taking that one
good.
step further, how are you going to measure this? And then if we do end up working together, you're going to share those metrics with me? Yes, you should be able to see what those metrics are, because it's your business.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody, that collaborative deal. And if there's no spirit of collaboration
Not a good
from your
sign.
client or your service provider, you all should move on and find, a different partner, I guess.
Good point.
So,
all right, Sue, did you have any other closing comments on this? I think that was a pretty good discussion. Started with, a pseudo top 5 list, but really got into some deep nooks and crannies there about the ROI and the measurement.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a great trail to go down.
I would say if you remember one thing and one thing only, remember this: not all firms are created equal. In our case, digital marketing, website build, SEO firms. Just like marketing means something different to everyone you ask, there are nuances that differ from one firm, one website design build firm, one SEO firm to another, and you want to know what those are. So ask the questions, make sure that you get your questions answered, know what you're getting for the estimate that you've been given, and know what you need and make sure that you're getting what you need and what you want before you go forward. So that's what I'd say. Quote of the day again: do not allow yourself to be misled by the surface of things. Dig deeper, ask the questions, get your questions answered, and have the information you need to make your decision. Or as the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need.
I like that.
Yeah.
If they remind my kids of that, probably would be a good one for them to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, guys, too, we should tell everybody about our free service that I don't think everybody's aware of. We should probably mention on the show here. If anybody has quotes for web design or quotes for SEO that you've gotten from other agencies, we're happy to give you a second opinion.
Great idea.
Just contact us.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're looking for. Send us your quote. I'm being half tongue-in-cheek sarcastic. Like, we're here to do that for you. We can do SEO. We can do web design. But in all seriousness, whether you want to entertain hiring us to do these services for you, or just want an actual second opinion here, contact us. Go on up to localseotactics.com. Go down the bottom. You can find the link to contact us. And we can give you that second opinion, look over your shoulder, or even entertain doing the services for you too. We put on this show to help everybody out, but we are rooted in running a business doing web design and SEO, if you didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Now you know. Thanks for jumping on this one, Bob. Sue, likewise. Good to see you again as well. And everybody else, until we talk to you in the next episode. Take care.
see ya.
Yeah.